King. Long stretch, MacDonald's on a breakaway. MacDonald in all alone, fakes the shot, goes to the backhand and scores. That was about a 110-foot pass, tape to tape beautifully from Lane King to Justin MacDonald.
And I should have gotten the correct overlay up there, but ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another episode of the Benchwarmers podcast. And today my guest is somebody I met 8-9 years ago, part of the Mississippi Surge, one of my most favorite people I've ever met in my short history in hockey. Please welcome Justin MacDonald. Justin, how are you?
I'm doing good. Yeah, it's been a while.
It has. And I just for giggles and everything, I had to make sure I had my Justin MacDonald jersey back here.
Absolutely. So, I see that. I love it.
The one I had to beg Tim to let me purchase. But luckily I still have it and enjoy it to this day. And I'm so glad to finally catch up with you. You've been, since you left the Mississippi Surge, or since the Mississippi Surge folded, you've been busy. Not only with hockey, but in your personal life. You've gotten married, you've had a child, you've played hockey, and you got all sorts of other things going on. But first of all, I want to talk about the year that you have had this year with the Watertown Wolves. And looking at it's probably statistically wise, one of the best years you've ever had. And I'm just sitting there looking. So not only were you, and I've got a little things prepared, not only were you the MVP of the league, you were the top goal scorer, you were first team all-star, you were forward of the year, you were the points leader with 117, you had 60 goals, you were the plus minus leader and the points per game leader and game-winning goals leader in the league. Holy cow, what a season. Tell us about it.
I mean, it was a good year. I mean, it all started with Brent contacting me this previous year, and I've known him, since before I even started playing pro, right? So he brought me down when he coached the Watertown Wolves in 14-15, and we were teammates before that in Pensacola when we won it. So we've known each other for a long time. So we know what to expect from one another. And I still say he's one of the best coaches that I've ever had. His practice plans are detailed compared to other coaches that, will just go through the motions. And with those practice plans, I mean, will come success, right? Individually and more importantly, through the team. And I mean, I've played with a lot of different players throughout this year, when it came to injuries and call-ups and whatnot. Fortunately, I was just able to find the back of the net this year. I mean, sometimes it happens, sometimes it doesn't. And this year was just one of those years. So, I was very happy about that. But more importantly, I was glad that we won everything.
Yeah, and that's actually Watertown's third Commissioner's Cup, I believe, that they've won.
Yeah, third. It was 14-15, 18-19, and now this one. So the only team that's done that. So, I mean, that's really cool to do. And especially coming out of, not playing last year where other teams, have been playing, it was tough, right? Other teams, had players that they've played together for a couple of years opposed to us where we were just, coming together and, we had 18 rookies to start with. And that's unheard of, right? No team ever has that.
That's I couldn't even imagine.
Yeah. So, I mean, you're trying to, lead these guys into, winning and whatnot. And that's, we had brought in some other veteran, helpers like Andrew Harrison, who is back in the Mississippi Surge in Pensacola, right? So, I mean, those guys gave us a huge boost to, win the Commissioner's Cup.
That's awesome. And I was just thinking about, and you try to track it down because I'm not lying, with those last couple of years that the Mississippi Surge were here, that was one of my most fun times being around hockey. And I was involved a little more than just the on ice intermission host with the Surge, and getting to know you guys as people and understanding your backgrounds and stuff. It made it for to me to want to keep track of what you guys are doing and all of that. And you went ECHL, SPHL. So tell me that road from Mississippi Surge to where you're at now. what steered those directions to where you're at now?
So after Mississippi, what happened was Brent contacted me, and I just wanted to play. I don't care
Right.
where I play. I mean, I just want to play hockey, right? And he was like, "Hey, do you want to come to Watertown?" This was for the 14th, 15th year. He said, "Oh, I'll, play you, as much as you can handle." And he basically said, if you want to go to the ECHL, I'll get you there. I'll get you at least a game there. And I'm like, you know what? I'd like to try it just to see what it's like. I mean, I was still young at that time, youngish, right? So I was like, yeah, sure, let's do that. And when I went there, I mean, he, like I said, he was the best coach that I've had in regards to like practice and all that. And he did get me called up that year. I was, I believe, leading the league again, and Evansville Iceman of at the time was the ECHL team, and they saw me, and they gave me a shot, and I went up there and did very well, and then I was there the following year, and then unfortunately they dropped out, and that's when it became the Evansville Thunderbolts. But I liked that area in regards to the rink was awesome. I knew a lot of the people there, so I stuck it out there for a couple more years. And I would be like, okay, let's try going to Adirondack or Fort Wayne, and Fort Wayne and was an incredible experience. I mean, we were such a strong team. Unfortunately, we lost in Game 7 in the conference finals to Colorado in overtime, and we were up 3-1 in the third. So that was a gut punch. But
I was gonna say that's a tough one.
yeah, and then after that. I didn't really care where to play. I just wanted to play, and I decided to go to Atlanta in the coast, and did pretty well there actually. And then I ended up having surgery beginning of the following year, and a couple of European offers came to me, and I was like, oh, let's try Sweden. So hopped over to Sweden, and I love the experience there. I mean, awesome people there, totally different game. You're playing half the amount of games, it's a lot less physical. So, that has its pros and cons. I loved it there. And then after that, I came back and was like, hey, I'll go back with Brent for, the following year, because he asked me to go. I'm like, yeah, sure, I'll go. But then that's when, unfortunately, we folded before the season started. And Glenn DeTulio of the Huntsville Havoc was like, hey, would you like to come? And I'm like, absolutely, trying to win a championship. Unfortunately, it didn't go as planned. And then after, this past season or the season before, I was just thinking, where should I go? And Brent was like, hey, if you want to come here. And I'm like, absolutely. I mean, we've won together. We won twice together, basically. I'm like, let's do it a third time. And that's what we did. So.
That's awesome. That's a heck of a travel. I was going to ask you about Sweden, because I had read where you came back from Sweden, and of course, when you look at anything that I can find, Sweden's not on there, of course. But I read that. So you talk about it being a different game, and not as physical and things like that. So give everybody a little taste of what it's like in Sweden outside of not being physical.
Well, to start off, I mean, just look at I think he's a very skilled player, but look at a William Nylander, right? Everyone's a Nylander over there, right? They don't have, the Lucic or anything like that, right? So, when I went over there, not like I'm a super physical player by any means, but, even that little physical presence that I did bring was a huge factor for them. They were like, that's, you opened up a little more space. And the players, all spoke English pretty much over there. They were very, welcoming. They took me out on New Year's Eve, and they tried to make me feel part of the team. And a lot of skating, because it's Olympic ice, right? So it's
Right.
And the fitness testing and all that I had to do in the middle of the season, it was exhausting, right? But that's why they're such good skaters over there. And I would go back over there. I was asked to go back the following year, but just with like you said, life, things come up, and I just wasn't able to make that happen, and had to stay in North America. And I don't regret it at all. But I did love it over there, and I would recommend anyone that is playing that has the opportunity to go, whether it's Sweden or anywhere over there. I mean, realistically, it's a free trip to Europe, right?
Absolutely.
I mean, I mean, we were planning on traveling to Italy at the end of the year, but we had to get out because COVID locked us down. So as we were flying out of the Denmark airport, they announced in the airplane as we were taking off that the Denmark airport is now closed.
Oh,
So
wow.
if we weren't able to do that, we would have been just like all the other Canadians or North Americans that were stuck there trying to get home, right? So fortunately, we were able to get home. Unfortunately, we weren't able to go, tour Europe, for, $100 hopping on a plane here, $100 there, right? I mean, it's so cheap compared to flying around here, right? So, but I would recommend anyone going over there and getting the experience because it's totally worth it.
That's awesome. So you've had your opportunity. You've played hockey in the North. You've played hockey in the South. You've played hockey in Sweden. And, one of the reasons that I wanted to chat with you, not only because I miss you and I haven't talked to you in years, is Biloxi has hockey back starting next year or next season in the league that you're currently in. And they're bringing back the Seawolves name. And I live in Pensacola, so I have the Pensacola Ice Flyers here. So could you give me a little bit of a difference of what it is to play hockey in the southern states versus what hockey is in the north?
Well, for anyone that's ever skated before, you can, picture skating on hard ice and then picture skating on slush, right? So it doesn't matter what southern team, what league you're on, the ice is so much different down south, right? And it's just, with that being said, you can't take chances, right? You need to make, you need to make strong puck plays. You can't be, making moves at your blue line or around your net because, it's going to hit a rut. It's going to hit something that, generally isn't there on harder ice. And it could be a
Right.
turnover, a goal, whatever the situation is, right? So as for the fans, I mean, fans were awesome. I know, we were struggling a bit towards the end of the year. But I mean, all the fans that came out and whatnot, I mean, they loved it, right? And I loved playing there. I was actually telling Kaylee the other day, I mean, being around there, you had the casinos, you had the beach. It was awesome, right? You could go to New Orleans for a day. It was close to everything. So I loved it there, and I'm very glad that you guys are able to bring hockey back there. And I think it's going to be a huge hit, right? And for this upcoming season, I haven't signed anywhere yet, but if I do go back with Brent or anywhere, I mean, I would definitely look forward to that trip.
Oh yeah. So hypothetical, since you said you haven't signed with anybody, hypothetical, if the Seawolves reached out and wanted to sign you, would you do that?
I always keep my options open.
I got you.
Open. The only thing about now playing in the north is since we live just outside of Toronto, I mean, it's just Watertown is very close to home. So it's easy to pop back if, for whatever reason, for holidays or for anything, right? It's 2.5 hours from my house, right? So that's the only thing. But at the same time, it could only be a 2.5 hour flight. So who knows?
There you go. So speaking of your time in Biloxi, I do have a video I want to show real quick. That this was Pink in the Rink one night. Hold on one second. Here it is. Have you had long hair since?
Not that long. No, I say I want to grow it out again because I love that. Let alone the cause. I also like the hair part of it. But I haven't had it that long. Relatively close. I think Kaylee would. Every time it starts to get a little long, she looks at me and says, "It's time.
It's time." I got you. So one thing that I wanted to talk about is this right here. How cool is it that you get to play and have your daughter around?
That's you can't even describe it. And before we had a kid, and Kaylee was saying, "Hey, let's try and whatnot," and I was always typical. Oh, maybe let's wait another year or whatnot. And I remember the captain's wife, Jamie Shaftsma in Fort Wayne. She was talking to his wife, and she goes to Kaylee, you know, if you really want to get him to say yes, just be like, hey, wouldn't it be cool to have your child watch you play hockey? Right. So,
Oh,
and something like that. I mean, it is super cool. And, you know, she's not even two yet. She's not even two yet. But when you're on the ice, I mean, so Kaylee says, like, when we score, whatever happens, like, she cheers, right? So it's really cool to see, and taking her out on the ice after, you know, it's definitely a special moment. I put her on the ice twice this year. She wasn't a fan, but you know, there's still hope. There's still hope. So
give it
try,
give it time. Give it time.
try it again next year. But
That's it.
very experience, awesome.
So, and I know as minor league hockey players, hockey unfortunately isn't the only thing that you do. So during the off season, what is it that you do the most as far as how to keep yourself in shape and any entrepreneurship stuff or anything like that?
So I went to school for fitness and health before I started playing, and so we had to create a little mock uh, business for training, and I was like, well, if I'm gonna create a fake one, why not create like a real one, right? So during school, I started to, recruit and, you know, reach out to people that would be interested in training, and for the first few years, a couple gyms contracted me out to train their clients. And there was a variety of clients, male, female, old, young, athletes, whatever it is. And then a couple, hockey specific gyms contacted me. And then I was like, you know what? I moved, 45 minutes outside of Toronto from where I was. And a parent reached out to me and was like, hey, would you be interested in possibly running some skates out this way? Because there's only, there's not much competition out here. There's only one or two, and they can be relatively expensive. And I was like, absolutely. So I tried it a couple of years ago, and I think I posted a skate online, and within, I think it was like 2-3 minutes, it was sold out. And I was just like, huh. I'm like, let me try it again. And it was sold out again. And I'm like, okay. And this was the end of the summer during COVID, actually, while rinks were still open. So then last year I went all out and I rented a bunch of ice. I did week-long camps. I did night programs. I did it all, and everything got pretty much sold out. So I've been. It's called ctghockey.com. That's my site name. It's controlling the game, and I think it's for me, I think it's super important in the sense that you want to control the game, right? If you control the game, you can do anything, right? And you don't necessarily need to be the fastest player, or the biggest or whatever it is, right? So I do believe that, if you can control the puck, you can control the play and whatnot, you will control the game, and that goes for any sport. I mean, it's just not hockey, right? I mean, you want to control anything you can.
Absolutely.
And fortunately, it's been very good. And so I do a lot of off ice training. I do a couple times a week with hockey players, and then I run skates throughout the week until the summer starts, and then I do week-long camps. I've been doing that, and it's been very well. And I actually just built, currently in the middle of building a gym, actually in my house, in my garage. I transformed it to train people in my house, opposed to always outside, right? We need a space, and opposed to going to a gym and, giving a piece of the pie to the owner or boss. It's like, well,
Right.
why don't I just pay myself? Right. So, I invested a little bit into my own property, and hopefully it pays off in, a little bit. So.
Awesome. So if you were one thing about hockey players or the hockey players I know is the main thing I get out of each of them is perseverance, because being in the minor league hockey system, I mean, it's constantly changing. It's constantly new teams, new and different leagues and stuff like that. So what keeps that drive going for you to keep pushing and pushing and pushing?
Well, you nailed it. I mean, it's, I'll be honest, it's probably the worst business to be in. I mean, if you don't love to play hockey, if you only like to play, don't even bother. Like, it's a nightmare. Because like you said, new teams, new ownerships, new leagues, whatever it is, right? All the way up. I mean, even in the coast, I mean, it was still brutal. Like it's not what everyone thinks it's going to be, right? I mean, you're on
Right.
the bus, whether you're flying or you're on the bus, you're away for 2 weeks at a time. I know it sounds great eating out at restaurants, but eventually you just get sick of it, right? You just want to be home. But it's like, oh, okay, let's go play another game, which is awesome. That's the whole point. That's why we do. But it's the in between that really takes a toll on the body. And at the end of the day, I mean, people still ask me, like, how can you do this? People that have done it and stopped because they couldn't handle it. And I'm just like, I just love to play. Like, I mean, there's nothing else. I wanted to play hockey wherever I can, forever, how long I can, since I was a kid, right? I don't want to do anything else. And I know there's going to be a time when I can't. And after that, it's not like I can be like, oh, I'll go back and play, right? I mean, it's not like that. You can maybe try for a year or two, but eventually there's an age where you can't do it anymore. And I'm just trying to, make the most of it. And, I had a goal before I even started playing pro. I'm like, oh, it'd be so cool to, reach 1,000 games. And I won't get to 1,000 games, unfortunately, but I thought that would be a very cool goal to have. That was a personal goal I wanted. But, with a couple injuries and, throughout my career, I, definitely hurt the numbers a bit, but I mean,
Right.
I play hockey. I mean, whether I'm always, looking, to play with, buddies back here, right? I mean, whether we're just, playing, a pickup game or we're training, it's just so much fun being on the ice. It's a total different, it's relaxing, as weird as that sounds when I'm out there, because you don't need to think about anything else. You just focus on, whether you're shooting, skating, whatever it is, right? And, then when you get off the ice and whatnot, then you can, okay, back to my, other, part of my life, right? And being in the locker room with the guys, being on the bus, it is a lot of fun. Believe me, it's so much fun, playing cards, telling stories, but definitely the in between, playing 3-on-3s, your body just gets mangled compared to other sports, right? I mean, you have to play through, being
I
banged
can
up. You have to,
I can
right?
only imagine.
Yeah.
This show is called The Bench Warmer for a reason. So
Yeah.
I can, I can only imagine. We did have a question. Now you already answered it, but I told people if they wanted to ask a question, they could pop it in. And I guess it's, will you be staying in Wolf? So,
I can't answer that because I haven't signed anything yet. A couple teams in other leagues, have reached out. But, I haven't said yes to anyone. I haven't said no to anyone. I'm just waiting, when the time will be right and I'll know when it is. And that's when I'll make my decision. So.
all right. So, on a parting note, if any of, either watching the replay or listening to the audio version of this are some younger players, what do you tell those younger players to keep that drive going?
I mean, I've said this for a long time. I said, when you think you're working hard, just know someone out there is working harder than you, right? And if that doesn't drive you to, you know what? I always pictured it as I just made up a person. Oh, Brian, I don't even know a Brian, but it's like, oh, Brian's working harder than me. You know what? No, Brian, I'm going to be working harder than you, right? And then you pick another player or, imagine something, right? I mean, at the end of the day, I think it's the greatest sport in the world. It's totally different than anything else. We're on the ice, right? We're hitting, we're fighting, we're shooting, we're scoring. I mean, we party. I mean, we're hockey players, right? And it's unbelievable. I mean, if you guys really want to do it, you guys can do whatever you want, right? And I've had coaches, I remember as a kid, you'll never, be a professional hockey player. And whether I, made it to the NHL or not, I still am playing, professional hockey. And, I loved hearing that. And I tell everyone, right? Anyone that, I was playing select growing up and I tell them and they're just like, wow, like that's impressive. Right. And it's, I'm very proud of that. And I don't care what anyone says. I'm very proud of what I did. And I hope if you can be proud of yourself, I mean, you'll go places. So
That's awesome. I had Zach Sargis on the show last week and
yep.
Was chatting with him. And I told him, I was like, you were talking about the playing and shooting and partying and stuff like that. I said, I consider the hockey players the rock stars of sports.
Yeah.
So
yeah. I mean,
any of them I've ever met have known how to go out. And when you go out and have a good time, they know how to get good time. And Jared Campbell says, hopefully he gets to see you this upcoming season.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
Jared. I'm sure you will.
All right. Well, Justin, I appreciate you spending a little bit of time with us tonight. I wish you all the luck. Like I said, you're one of my favorite people I've ever met in this sport. And I wish you all the best of luck and the family best of luck, and tell Kaylee I said hi and all that kind of good stuff.
Absolutely. Thanks a lot, Kevin. And hopefully I see you this year.
All right. Thank you so much, Justin.
See you. Bye.